For many years already, his images have flourished on our city walls. But who is the artist behind them? Known as the father of street art, meet Ernest Pignon-Ernest.
To me, there's a kind of unity, a coherence in my work, whether I'm in Chile, in Soweto, or in Haiti. I'm always in pursuit of the same thing.
But what is Ernest searching for? To find out, we followed him on a journey through the city. We visited his workshop, his present, and his past. Ernest Pignon-Ernest's upcoming project is based in the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince. His work begins at the workshop with the search for an initial image. In this case, the one of a crucified man, a symbolic image that conjures many others.
I'm going to go over it again tomorrow morning. It needs to evolve. The proportions are about right, but I feel like he is lacking in magnitude. There's something powerful within him that I haven't quite reached yet. In the images I create for the streets, I need to feel like there's something real, a physical presence, something to suggest an encounter. Here, this is more of a reference to theatre. I'm not trying to reproduce reality. I'm technically able to create optical illusions, but what I'm doing here is quite the opposite. I'm trying to assert that this is an image, trying to show that I'm showing something. I call them life-size, but they're taller than me. At some point it feels right. It just feels right. I don't know why. These drawings lying around. I made 5 or 6 practically identical versions of the Pasolini, but only one of them really stands out and faces the viewer. There's something carnal, something sensual about it. In today's context, there's nearly an ethical choice to be made when drawing. It has become difficult to tell which images are real and which of them aren't. There's an essential quality to drawing, a certain affirmation of humanity. There's no distance between a man's hand and his thoughts. This is man, this is humanity. For the past 50 years, my images have raised questions about man and his relationship to his environment, other people, history, and politics. So I recently realized that I had drawn mostly pietas, which comes down to depicting humans and the violence they encounter. The first time I found the technique that really suited my preoccupations was when I made my first large-scale screen prints. I was invited to be part of an exhibition on the theme of the Bloody Week, when the Paris Commune of 1871 was suppressed by government. The idea of laying the images down on the ground was a way of representing how we had forgotten what happened. Stepping on them meant that we had forgotten about them. That's in front of the Père Lachaise cemetery. The police arrived and we had pasted images all along the footpath and on the Federates wall in the background. My anachronisms were on purpose. I applied this image of a beaten-down man on the stairs of the Charonne metro, where 8 people were killed for protesting against the colonial war. I was sometimes told I made artworks to fit a situation, but I would respond that I was just trying to make the most of the situation that existed. Here's my collage in Nice against the apartheid. It's a simple image, a simple symbol, that of injustice, a family behind barbed wire. It made a lot of sense in the context of Nice becoming a sister city to Cape Town and welcoming the South African Prime Minister. They are the ones who made my action symbolic, dramatic, and artistic in a certain sense. This is the paper I use. They're the leftovers from Le Monde's rotaries. The press is nearby here in Ivry. I buy this because it's the cheapest, and in fact, it's exactly what I need. Better paper isn't as good. When this paper is soaked in glue, it will sink into any crack in a wall. Paradoxically, its fragility means that it is very difficult to take off, as it is so thin. If you use 150-gram paper, it's thicker and you can tear it off. This was a stroke of luck. I've been using it from the start, and sometimes I'll have better quality paper, and it isn't as good. I've had Le Monde Diplomatique, it's better quality paper, but the results aren't as good.
Ernest's work is nourished by history, literature, and poetry. The words of the author Jacques-Stéphane Alexis inspired him a portrait that completed his Haitian experience.
To me, Stéphane Alexis embodies the Haiti of hope, the Haiti of renewal. He truly carried the hopes of Haiti following the American occupation. Throughout his life and his novels, he somehow incarnated the newfound hope that emerged at the time. His portrait, the way I saw it, was an open question to the youth of Haiti, to the people of Haiti. So obviously I tried to capture a physical resemblance with Stéphane Alexis. But through my drawing, I also wanted to express what I received from reading his books. All that hope, humanity, and sensuality, which must have translated to the look in his eyes and to his smile. With poets, I feel like time and the life they have been through have sculpted their face. It's obvious with people like Artaud, Nerval, Desnos, Pasolini or Neruda. The way we face each other off when I'm drawing them, there is something very on point about it, a resonation of the life they lived. They incarnate the contradictions of their era. They incarnate the time in which they lived. I'm sorting through these because some of these are softer, some are more robust. It depends on the kind of black I'm looking for. I usually start off with charcoal, but charcoal can be erased, whereas this black pigment is very dense and resistant. Even the drawings I paste out on the streets hold up with this. And I have my eraser system. I can't draw with a flat eraser, so I make a kind of comb out of it, which allows me to draw bodies. Especially when depicting women, with the idea of sculpting them, I'll make the slightest nuance vibrate. The vibration comes first from the pencil, then from the light. The eraser allows the light to flow in a certain way. I do two things. Either I take off my glasses to see things differently, or I put them back on. And I also use a mirror. Seeing things inverted helps find what is unbalanced, reveal what is artificial in a composition. This can apply to a drawing hung up at a gallery within a given frame. But these tricks no longer apply when you show a drawing in the street. The confrontation with the drawing is different. Place a drawing in Naples on a 25-meter-high ornate facade with molded details, caryatids and sheets hanging from the windows. Amongst such a visual mess, such visual richness, the drawing has to be well constructed to fit in. It's an unforgiving process. Some characters, like Charlemagne Perrault, take on an epic dimension. This is no longer about politics. They include themselves into a people's destiny. This isn't something I could have invented. It's a document. Charlemagne Perrault was leading the struggle against American occupation. They killed him and publicly exposed his body to show that they had killed him. It's a historical document to which I am making a reference. It's not the same as usual when I invent an image. Here I'm making a reference, and maybe my future work will be considered a reference to this image. It's a reference everyone in Haiti is familiar with. Jacques-Stéphane Alexis once wrote, "It's a grand and beautiful thing for a people to maintain their legends alive. I find that to be essential. Many mistakes have been made on that front. How to put it? The progressive type of people who want to clear the slate of history. I think the left-wing anthem, the Internationale, was a reactionary rallying cry that pinpointed that. It's essential for the most modest of people to know they have a history." I pasted these for 2 or 3 years. Every time I would come by an interesting place that had traces of these people's lives. These things are rather upsetting because someone has been driven away from their own story. You can see people created intimate spaces for their children. I find there is a great violence within these images. I was sensitive to this because my parents were evicted from their home, and I saw the trauma it induced with my mother when she had to leave the neighborhood where she had spent her entire life. It was difficult for me when I made the picture about abortion. It was an essential debate for the women of my generation. There was a reactionary campaign stating, "Abortion kills," with a photo of a fetus. The idea was to flip the concept and say, yes, abortion kills, it kills women. My images are born from listening to people, like this image with the immigrants. The man says, "I'm here as a tool, people only care about my arm strength. My culture and history are being ignored." It's way more violent now. Back then, they would come and find work, but some of them were deported anyway. During the 70s, my assessment was that art was inaccessible to 95% of the population, and that ties needed to be recreated in accordance with people's preoccupations, to create new things from this approach to reality. When I drew Rimbaud, politicians were using the slogan "changing life," which got on my nerves. I found there was something misleading about the phrase. Indeed, I didn't think those politicians were going to make our lives different. Maybe that was a turning point. When we pasted the first Rimbaud on the Boulevard Saint-Michel in the middle of the night, a police van turned up and the chief jumped out and started shouting at us. 6 or 7 cops came out of the van. One of them was very young, 20, 25, and he said, "Oh, it's Rimbaud." All the other cops paused and looked at him astonished, and then he said, "Put it up, I love Rimbaud." He was the incarnation of youth, its questionings and its rejection of everything. He's nearly like James Dean or Bob Dylan, something like that. When I pasted Rimbaud, it hit me that the most Rimbaud thing about the image was that it wasn't frozen in time. It would eventually disappear. My pieces are no longer around, that's true. But it's not a coincidence. I'm probably not the only person in this situation. It corresponds to our era. It's not like we're living during the Renaissance, where people were convinced their core beliefs would be valid for centuries. I think we're in a blurry era, which produces suggestions like this one. Suggestions of doubt. For years, my work was perceived as a tool for leftist agitation. I was featured in the Mao newspaper, things like that. It's only when my work was shown at the Paris Museum of Modern Art in '79 that people discovered my work had been nourished by a long-term investigation into imagery and history, along with the effort put into the drawings themselves.
This is the ultimate accolade for you to be heard. Isn't it in contrast with your work?
Yes, you could think that. It's true that there is a contradiction in setting these images that were made for the streets within a museum context, but at the same time, it's a form of account illustrating my approach to things. I'm quite comfortable with that. Really, I no longer have that problem. Only a show in a museum can allow me to say that my images are not exhibited on the streets. Many people from the street art scene say they exhibit on the streets because they are like the biggest gallery in the world. My work isn't just about pasting in the streets, and an exhibition in a museum allows me to show all the complexity of what I have to offer. I'm trying to think of an itinerary through the museum for my next exhibition in Brussels. I've kept a legacy from my years in architecture. I did a lot of basic sketching for the building of small villas in the late 50s. I was only about 15 or 16 when I started working at an architect's. It taught me a lot about drawing. I hadn't had any training in perspective or anything. For me, it was an experience that counted very much. This is the first floor, and this is the ground floor of the Botanical Museum. We'll enter from here and start out with a few references. For example, this is a drawing I brought back from Algeria when I was in the military. I was about 19 and a half. It's obviously a direct reference to Picasso. When looking at 90% of visual art, I've always had the feeling, and still do, that it's very difficult to be a painter since Picasso. He really shook things up. It's when I discovered Picasso in Paris Match, with his portraits of Sylvette, the girl with the ponytail, with all the variations he had made, that I began to want to make something truly different. They're starting to disappear. They're Picasso's last paintings. And here's Picasso's portrait. Picasso is everywhere. I have books of his everywhere. There's even one in my bathroom. No one painted women like he did. To paint a woman's genitals and make it look like the sun, or an anus and make it look like the sun, requires extraordinary ability. There's a lot of happiness and sensuality there. I'm really quite jealous. Caravage, of course, fed my work since my time in Naples when I discovered him. This is my partner Yvette. La Réserve is the beach I've been going to for 60 years. I'm very attached to Nice. It's a place that means a lot to me. I think I'll have my ashes scattered there. There's Garibaldi, the great hero of my neighborhood. And this is Auguste Blanqui, two heroes from Nice. Here's an extraordinary photo of Pasolini playing football, and a signed photo of Louison Bobet, which he had sent me at the time. Before dreaming of being a football player, I dreamt of being a racing cyclist. Here's a picture of my father at the Nice abattoir, carving open a huge hunk of meat. That's what he did his entire life. Surprisingly, the place where this photo of my father was taken, in his work clothes holding his knife, is now a place dedicated to contemporary art. How times have changed. This is Reiser. I admire Reiser. To me, he's the greatest illustrator. He's a kind of Daumier, really. To be able to express what he expressed through seemingly bad drawing was amazing. He was inventing a new language. I really think Reiser is one of the people who best represented my generation. And this I really liked. Reiser is better. He went to the cemetery by foot. That was a few years ago. I don't know if there's a date on it. It's all a bit random, but in the end it's probably not that random. This is Francis Bacon's workshop. I'll never reach such a level of mess. I need my workspace to feel calm. I don't know how he did it. But I don't know how he did his paintings either. He was really a great painter. His work is very sensual. That's what I always loved about it. I've never had the guts, meaning that I tend to withhold a lot. This applies to the way my images intervene with a given place. I have to be careful not to give in to pathos. There's never any blood in my work. nothing too lyrical.
Trop lyrique, c'est toujours assez tenu.
There's a certain restraint in my work.
Et quelquefois, j'aurais bien aimé oser.
Sometimes I would have liked to have the ability to make things that were that sensual, that carnal.
Lui, là, voilà. Donc moi, j'étais
I was very flattered when he wrote to me asking for photos of my collages.
des photos de mes collages, quoi. Vraiment, c'est vrai, c'est
Really, I was very
très
honored.
honoré. Voilà.
And he
Et
told
il
me
m'a
he had
dit,
been following my work
suivez
since
mon
the
travail,
character I'd pasted in
le personnage
Grenoble
que j'ai
around
fait,
75 or
en
76.
76 ou 75 ou quelque chose comme ça. J'y pense là en voyant.
I'm reminded of it
cette
when I see this
notamment.
painting,
Mais il y en a plusieurs comme ça.
but there are several others like it, where the character is included in some kind of space. I used that idea for my project with the phone booths. I worked on the rectangular frame of the phone booth and how to include the image of a man within its limits. Here I'm creating texture from the imperfections in the floor, so there's a contrast between the skin, the wall and the door, just by using the wood's texture.
La texture du bois. Ouais, j'espère que
Hopefully next time we'll see it will be in... No, sorry, first it will be shown at the screen printing workshop, and then maybe in one of the streets of Port-au-Prince.
Port-au-Prince, quoi, peut-être.
I can already visualize it on certain walls,
Bon.
as if it had reappeared.
Oh, moi, comment dire? Je sais pas exactement ce que ça fait.
I don't know exactly what is provoked by what I offer to a given town. In any case, I've never thought there was any efficiency tied to it.
Une efficacité ou une chose de cet ordre, quoi. Je le sais pas.
It's like a
C'est comme un
poem.
poème, tu vois, on sait pas ce que ça va.
Who knows what it will provoke, what might ensue from it.
Si on peut parler d'œuvre pour un genre d'intervention.
If you want to call this type of intervention a work of art, the actual work of art is not the drawing itself, it's what the drawing conjures. And the color palette is broader. If I put it against a brightly colored wall, a yellow wall in the Haitian sunlight, for instance, its meaning might change completely.
De Haïti et tout ça, voilà. Je sais pas. Je vais la travailler en
When you
collant,
paste an image, you're working on the meaning of the image.
déjà, et
Then the life happening around it will come and enrich it
ça
further.
enrichit encore, moi, vraiment. Mais je vois, c'est-
I live in perpetual doubt.
Moi, je sais pas.
I don't have any certitude, especially here.
Certitude. Surtout là.
This is the first image.
C'est la
We will
première
see where it
image, on va
takes
voir
us.
comment ça va continuer, mais...
Over 300 works of art were exposed in Brussels for Ernest Pignon-Ernest's retrospective exhibition.
We're getting rid of one of these three.
His sketches, original paintings, and photos help the viewer revisit his numerous installations and get a full overview of the artist's itinerary.
Ça va pas
That's
bien.
no good there.
Avec les
Yes, I
chiffres,
think that looks right.
c'est bon. Comme j'insiste
I'm always insisting on the fact that my collages are determined by places. the history of these places, their plasticity, and the memories they carry. They're also determined by the day on which they were pasted. So I hope the exhibition as a whole will demonstrate a certain approach, a certain overall process in my work. The drawings you see here contain elements for which I haven't found the solution in order to paste them out on the street. Here, for instance, all the hell stuff, Hades, etc. I like to show the visitors the fumbling process of research behind my work. Because when people come to the exhibition and see large-scale drawings, they can think, oh, this guy is good at drawing, as if it just happened without any work. It's important for me to show all of this research, the unfinished work, and how I process my hesitations. I've been doing this for 50 years, since 1966, so I can't show everything. It's helped me assess and better understand my work. My dream, my ultimate goal, is for my drawings to appear as a mark, as if man hadn't had anything to do with it. When I place an image somewhere, it's telling a story of both a presence and an absence. More details will appear.
It's still blocked for now.
The screen print transforms my drawing. Charlemagne Peralt's body has become a trace, a fragile print. My work is mainly centered on the human body. That's why I often work with dancers. They take their bodies to the next level. I mainly work with dancers from the Monte Carlo Ballet. I have affinities with their work, and because I'm from Nice, it's close to home. I feel very much in sync with the choreographer Jean-Christophe Maillot. We are on parallel paths, and his work has been influencing my own for the past 20 years. I worked with the dancers from his company on my projects on Jean Genet, my project on Pasolini, and for my project titled Extase, I had Bernice Copiter's pose for me right over here. We worked together for 4 or 5 years. This girl has an amazing anatomy. She has muscles you didn't even know existed, muscles in her thighs you have never seen on anyone else. She's really quite incredible. There are probably about 2,000 photos of her on this wall. They're all over the place. It's amazing. She has a form of bodily intelligence, of expressiveness, a sense of plasticity. She has a way of playing with her body's features that creates meaning. I started out making many sketches, but ended up working mainly from photos of her. I would be searching for a hand through rolls of film, develop the film and think, this is the one. I'm working on these images of Bernice again because I've been offered to show the Extase series at the Purgatorio ad Arco church in Naples. These drawings were inspired by the accounts of 7 great mystics who did nothing but write. They considered themselves as married to Christ and expressed great sensuality in their writing. I'm thinking of Thérèse d'Avila, Angèle de Foligno, all of them really. The idea is for the drawing to be in contradiction with the paper it's been drawn on. So I've put together a model version up on the 10th floor to see if all 8 drawings will fit.
Là, justement, j'ai un doute sur ça.
I have a doubt on this one,
Celle-là, elle fait 4,60 m.
because this one is 4 meters 60 high, and its position will be determined in relation to the ceiling.
Avec le plafond. D'installer ce travail.
To show my work in such a place, in the historical heart of Naples, at the Purgatorio ad Arco church, and in its crypt, is a Neapolitan miracle. Only Naples could offer me a project like this one, really. Nearly all the images I've put up suggest a link to the underground. In Naples, you take a trip down to the first circles of hell. Here, the sacred truly comes from the underground. Here is where the itinerary started. I had pasted the image of a woman holding a shroud, holding a sheet. Here you had two women who were here every day selling mops and contraband cigarettes. I pasted an image of a dying Virgin Mary, and these two women were like the guardians of the painting. It was right here. I don't know if I could paste here anymore. A lot of the places where I've worked would no longer make the cut because the places change and lose part of their meaning. I connect an image to a place to give meaning to the image. And here, for instance, we've lost in meaning. It seems like people don't understand that when someone comes and pastes, it's Lisiana. Look, how incredible. No one will believe this wasn't planned. That's her father and Antonietta. When I was working here, all the churches were closed because of the earthquake. Here, in the Purgatorio ad Arco church, where I installed my mystics, there's a double tension. The Baroque embellishments in the top part contrast the very severe style of the crypt and catacombs. Up there you have marble, down here you have bones. People still have rituals where they will come to speak to a skull they've adopted. They'll come to interfere for a parent, negotiate a way into purgatory, for the dead to be granted access to heaven.
Oh, Lucia, Lucia. So il significato della parola. Nei pensieri. Proteggimi con forza, ne ho bisogno. Per aver portato nella mia vita un ragazzo che è stato un grande amore.
Right there, close to where it folds. Further forward, slightly to the right. We have this hand, that one over there, and this one. Let's cast a light on this one. There, that's good. This project was born in Naples in the 80s. This is like returning to the origins of the project, really, as if it were made to be seen here. What brought me to Naples is basically the same thing that brought me to Haiti. Both these places have a strong relationship to their underground, a constant worry regarding the threat of their underground's telluric forces. The recent earthquake in Port-au-Prince left a deep mark on the population. It's a part of their history and of their relationship to life and death. It started out quite random. It came together little by little to create a kind of chaos. The memory of the earthquake and its thousands of victims is still very fresh in people's minds. The idea is for the pictures to create a questioning on the subject. There is this chaotic image of the collapsed cathedral in the city center, completely destroyed. Why is it still in that state? Why aren't we able to rebuild it? What is the significance of a broken cathedral? Haiti is ambiguous when it comes to religion. There's a kind of repression. There have been systematic campaigns since the arrival of the slaves, and that continue today, campaigns against superstitions. Because authorities consider voodoo as superstition, but consider Christianity as legitimate. I'm careful in the way I approach the subject, and assume the responsibility that goes along with it. I don't have a deadline or any obligations. The desire to make this project came from literature. It's from reading Lionel Trouillot and Stéphane Alexis that I became invested. It gave me the will to better understand these people and their culture. But I don't understand all of their social codes. This work in progress is just asking some questions, illustrating an approach. That's what it is, an approach.
Quand les princes du port gardent en main le sort ami de milliers d'exilés mal du pays. Quand tu rêves la nuit exilé de ton île, entends-tu tous ces cris, ces rumeurs de ta ville? Les musiques dans les cours, les jaseries des commères, les enfants de Carrefour et les vagues de la mer. Toi tu traînes ta vie et ton mal du pays ami, le long de ces hivers tellement loin de la mer.
I think it would be interesting to visit the Bel Air neighborhood.
If we can graft them to art made by locals, they're fragile pieces that don't last, huh?
Pour que chante à nouveau les espoirs de ton île.
I'm going to look short. He's too tall. We don't have the ball.
Pour que chante à nouveau les espoirs de ton île.
I have to figure out the ratio between height and width. We're lacking at least 80 centimeters at the bottom. I can't think of how to make it wider.
Wow, how beautiful. Amazing work.
It's a bit too white.
It's not because he comes from Paris. It's a great thing when anyone from abroad comes to work on Haiti's cultural heritage. Part of our problem is that the Haitian state doesn't invest in promoting this heritage. So it makes me proud when someone comes here to work on the subject, but not as proud as I would be if a Haitian had the means to do the same thing. I consider there to be only one race of men, so this is mankind you see at work. That makes me proud.
You have to put lots on. There, that's perfect. Here, can you bring it in closer? It grips on, you know. The paper is very thin, so it grips onto the wall. See how fragile it is when it's wet? This will look good when it dries, don't you think? This is the street with the cemetery. I wouldn't mind finding a place around here to paste an image of Perrault. Where there is that stack of tires could be good. And here, sorry, can you slow down? I think we could just show up and paste here.
This generation is ignorant of its own history.
Yes, that's part of what brought me here. Let's have a look on the side here. Yes, if we can go higher. Wait, I'll go over it. It's all the Haitians who were killed during the dictatorship. Go as high as possible. I'll tell you if it's straight.
What's your name?
My name is Ernest Pignon-Ernest. Look me up online.
I'm happy with what you're doing here. You're showing Haiti from a different perspective. I'm very happy.
Will it end here? I just make pictures. They are just questions.
I thought it was something mitigated. I mean, mystical.
It is mystical. That slip of the tongue was on point, though. It is mitigated.
His art will continue to live on Haiti's walls. But will Ernest Pignon-Ernest ever return to Haiti?
I feel like time goes by so fast. I don't have the time to do everything I would like to do. I have 10 projects for which I know I am now too old to complete. Silly, isn't it? I've been wanting to do Nerval's Aurélia for 20 years. And now, with the offer I've had from the Palais des Papes in Avignon, I'm going to work on Petrarch's triumphs.